Hello, this is Gio. Hey, look what we have here. We have a space between a house and a fence. Actually, I recently got a puppy and I need to build a fence. Now, the fence is for the backyard, but there's also this space at the back of the house to the back fence, which I kind of need to block off to prevent him from escaping. And I'm thinking, well, let's build a gate. And so that's what we're going to do today. But first I have to figure out which way I want this gate to swing. Well, I could have the hinge point near the fence and so it swings towards the fence, or I could have the hinge point at the corner of the house so it kind of swings away from the fence. So originally I was thinking about attaching the gate to the corner of the house, thinking, well, I don't need really a post if I attach it to the house. However, there was an issue with that idea. There's really not much substance at the corner of the house. It's not really like solid wood immediately at that corner. It's more of a trim piece, and so it wasn't really conducive to attaching a 4 to 4.5 foot wide heavy gate to that corner. So I really do need a post, and I figured, well, if I need a post, I might as well put it near the fence. It seems more natural to swing the gate open along the fence line. But first things first, I need to clean up the area and cut back some vegetation to make room for the gate. So with the area cleaned up and the vegetation cut back, it's time to take my post hole digger and dig a hole for the post. So my gate's only going to be about 5 feet high, and so really for the post you need about a 1.5 to 2 foot deep hole. Now you could either cement the post directly in the hole, or in my case I'm going to be using this heavy duty column base to support the post. I'm selecting this because in the event that the post rots in the future, I could always easily replace the post and not have to dig up the concrete that I placed in the hole. I'm also going to add this little section of rebar to help strengthen the concrete below the metal base. Concrete tends to be strong in compression but not in tension, so this rebar piece will help strengthen it and prevent cracking. But first, to mix the concrete, and I'm just taking a high strength concrete mix and a bucket, and I'm just going to mix some concrete in a standard bucket. Now I could have selected a fast setting concrete instead of just a standard concrete mix, but I already had a couple of bags of this concrete, so I figured I'd just use it for this one post. You could use a fast setting concrete. It doesn't set as strongly as this concrete, but for fence posts and gates it's just fine. Now, a fast setting concrete could set within about an hour and you could start putting some weight to it. It won't obtain its full strength for a while, but you could start working with it. In my case, I'll want this to set for 24 to 48 hours before I start actually applying a load to this concrete. And then the full strength of concrete won't occur until for about 7 days to up to a month for the full strength. But you really don't need that full strength for just a fence post. So in the meantime, while the concrete is curing, I'll just take my 5 foot high post and just make a few cuts on the top to make it look a little more decorative. And then I'll just take some exterior stain sealant and apply it to the post. Now the post is pressure treated, but I just want to add a little extra weather protection to the post. And I'm doing this before I install it. just to make sure that it's well treated. The rest of the gate I will apply the sealant after I install the gate. So after letting the concrete set for about 24 hours, I just kind of loosely place the post on the column support, and I'm going to be attaching it just initially with a single 1.5 3/8 inch hex head screw. Now this is a heavy duty screw connector, and so I'm just going to put it right up on top, and then I'm going to kind of level the post out to make sure that everything is level. And then I'll install the rest of the screws. Now that the post is in, we're ready to make the gate itself. Now the gate is essentially going to be initially a frame with 2 horizontal members and 2 vertical members and 1 cross member. Now these are pressure treated 2x4 boards that's going to make the frame, and then the face will be essentially cedar boards, fencing cedar boards. Now the cross member, you want to install it so it's on the down side of the cross is near the hinge. So at the far end away from the hinge, it will actually take up the load, as you can see here in this diagram. So initially we're just going to measure the horizontal distance from the post to the house. Essentially this will be the width of the gate. Now you want to measure it in the location of those horizontal braces, those 2x4 braces of your frame. Now 2 measurements, you're hoping that they're the same distance, but if they're not, just make note of it and you'll have to make 2 different size cuts for your boards. Now I did cut these boards about 1/4 inch shorter than the measured distance. This gives it a little bit of fudge factor for the gate width. And then you want to go ahead and measure the height of your vertical member and cut those. So once you cut your 4 boards, just lay them down on a flat surface the way they're supposed to be constructed, and then take a measurement and then measure diagonally from one corner to another corner and then the opposite diagonal. Now those 2 measurements should be equal. If they're not, adjust the frame so they're equal, and that way you'll make a square or a perfect rectangle. Then go ahead and roughly lay out your angled cross member, and then use a straight edge to mark where your cut should be. So next I just hammered in some binding plates to temporarily hold everything together. These will be hidden beneath the cedar boards that we're going to install next. Now you have to make sure these don't interfere with the hinges that you're going to be installing in later. Now I do have a confession. The angled cross member in this photo is in the wrong orientation. I actually installed it in the wrong direction. The hinge side should be on the left, and therefore the angled member should be pointing down on the left. This was an error on my part. I didn't catch it initially, and I installed the gate incorrectly. I may have to fix this in the future. But for this video, please do what I say and not what I do. Make sure your angled cross member is in the correct orientation. And once your frame is complete, just install your cedar boards. Now I only needed 8 boards for my gate. I kind of spaced them apart with my eye. You can measure it with a tape measure if you want. And I just screwed them in with some decking screws. And then it's time to make sure your gate fits the space intended. Now one interesting aspect to my gate is that the post itself isn't really supported on any existing fence or structure. It's just standing there freely. So I felt it needed a little extra support. So I did get a post bracket, some nuts and bolts, and a couple of panel clamps designed for chain link fences. And I attached everything as shown to provide just a little extra support for the post, especially once the gate's on. And now it's time for the hinges. Now I'm using two 3.5 inch hinges, and I'm initially installing them on the gate itself at the location of the horizontal member of the 2x4 horizontal member of the frame. So they'll be screwed in directly through the cedar board and into the frame. Now I'm not using the screws that came with the hinges. They're generally small. I'm using the larger heavy-duty 1.5 inch screws that I used for the posts. Since I'm installing the gate myself, I just put a few shim boards on the bottom just to get the proper height, and then align the gate so it fits nicely. And then I just initially attach the gate via the hinge using a single hex head screw up on top and another one on the bottom. And then I test out the swing of the gate to make sure it swings properly. And once I feel the swing is good, I'll install the rest of the screws. And lastly, the gate latch. Now I could also install some handles, but I'm not doing that right now. So this will be the last component for the gate. And there you go, that's how you make a custom gate. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit that like button at the bottom of the screen, and even consider subscribing to my channel. I'll have many more videos to come. Bye-bye.